In today's show, Blazers President of Business Operations, Dewayne Hankins, joins the program, and we talk about the Blazers, their changes to the broadcast, their changes that are coming to the arena, and more. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. In today's program, a fun one, Blazers President of Business Operations, Dewayne Hankins, is going to join me. And we're going to talk about the Blazers' changes in their TV side, the changes coming to the arena, and a couple other business things along the way as the Blazers navigate towards what's next and try to bring you the best version of their product. So let's get into it. Joining me now, the Blazers President of Business Operations, Dewayne Hankins. Dewayne, thanks so much for making time for us. How you doing this morning?
Doing well, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
I guess we're doing this. We're recording this in the morning, but listeners, you are maybe listening to this in the evening. This is Wednesday, March 12th show. I appreciate you stopping in. The Blazers are, entering the stretch run of the season, but on the business side, you are always doing stuff. Mm-hmm. I think the most notable things this year are the TV side with Blazers Vision and some arena updates coming to the Moda Center near you. I want to touch on both those things, plus some other stuff that's happening in the Blazers world. Let's start with Blazer Vision, though. There was some reporting that there is a massive increase in viewership. Can you speak to that? And also, this just seems like the simple math of make it easier to watch and more folks will watch it. Is that kind of the lesson that you guys are seeing?
Yeah, Mike, I think that's pretty much it, honestly. We knew after last year's numbers, we saw the largest decrease we've seen and the largest in the NBA. And knowing that our audience, 20% of our audience was able to watch our games, that was a challenge for us and one that we wanted to try to fix last summer. So I think that deal that we've done with K2 with Sinclair has been phenomenal to kind of increase that. You've got 100% penetration. You've got multiple options for fans to watch games, whether that's on our K2.2 station, whether that's on KUMP, or even, as you said, Blazer Vision. And yeah, I mean, we saw a huge uptick in ratings, I think, even earlier in the season. And then when the team turned the corner in January, we saw ratings increase even further. So fans are engaged, and it's been perfect timing in terms of again, making the games available for fans as the team's taking its upswing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because some of this is out of your control, right? Like if the team plays well, more people are going to watch. So you did see early on just accessibility helped change those numbers when during the first 40 games or so, they were still kind of scuffling. You guys did see an uptick in viewership there?
Yeah, pretty immediately we saw that the big bet of changing our broadcast paid off. And again, I think what's been exciting about that is it's kind of doubled again in the last 2 months as the team's really taken off. And that's just exciting because I think the story we've been trying to tell our fans, even last year, was like, hey, we're not seeing the wins and losses, but there's glimpses, there's moments. Like these guys have games, they have situations, and when only 20% of the fans can see those moments, it makes everything harder in my job and everyone else's job here to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like you need the exposure as step one, and then all of the other things you promote get you there as well. I think the big question for the TV stuff is, do the big streamers ever get back in on regional sports networks? What is your feeling on whether the big companies like Hulu and YouTube TV will pick up the local broadcast at some point in the future?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like this goes back. I mean, the Blazers' history of not having their games accessible has been a 2-decade run, as well as you know, Mike. And it was interesting when we were on NBC Sports Northwest and we were only on Comcast for such a long time. And then it was at that time, streaming or I guess VMVPDs, as they call them, started picking up. So you saw PlayStation View and Hulu and things like that, and YouTube. So there was other options finally for fans. And then, as you know, we moved on to Root, and then Root didn't have any of those options. And I think as we look to change our model completely, like I wouldn't say that we're on an RSN anymore. even though maybe those streamers view it as such. Like with the Rip City TV network, we're sort of like in our own pocket here. And our bet, I think, was to hope that, the channels like YouTube and Hulu would pick up the network. I think they did for a couple of games in some cases. And then when they thought it looked like an RSN, they decided to cancel it. So, it's tricky. It's frustrating for our fans. It's frustrating for folks that are trying to watch the games. But I think what we've said all along is we're not probably going to be able to hit everybody's favorite platform. But if we can get on as many as possible, we can make that work. And, I would hope that those networks see the value in the Rip City TV network. But like, since they're not seeing it in other markets, I kind of find it hard to believe they'll find that value here.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like some of this is not a Blazers problem. Some of this is a nature of sports distribution nationally. It's in some ways like crippling Major League Baseball. It's like a thing that's like much larger than the Blazers, but I think it is like for my audience and obviously your side, it's like it feels very specific to Blazer fans, but I think it's larger than that. To be clear, the negotiations would happen between Sinclair and YouTube, Sinclair and Hulu. Not you guys would not be directly involved. Is that how that works?
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, even going back, the 2 decades where we've had these challenges, we've always felt like we're, for lack of a better word, a pawn in a greater game of distribution. And then our fans always get the short end of the stick on that stuff. So, we push Sinclair to make the games available. We believe that Sinclair, because of their network of stations sort of all over the place, they have probably more power than we would on our own as the Rip City TV network to make that happen. And then, YouTube or the others need to come forward and show an interest in doing it as well. I mean, the thing that was exciting about the K2 partnership and Sinclair was just, again, they have so many stations around the Pacific Northwest that it's easy to go find, an affiliate in all of the places that Blazer fans exist all over the Pacific Northwest. And that was super attractive. And they've largely come through on that, which has been good.
Yeah, I think the in general, a wider, simpler array of watching Blazer games is the path, right? Like I think there's some stuff that's out of your control, and I think fans, at least from my side, and I think me and you discussed this privately at some point, is like, we're just confused. Where does this live? Like, where am I going to find this? But I think the puzzle is getting a little clearer, and I think next year when there's continued clarity and maybe even a more successful basketball team, you'll continue to see the change. I do think in general, as a Blazer Vision watcher, simple for me, and my complaints about Blazer Vision are that the NBA app is bad, and that has nothing to do with y'all. That's about the league. And league partners, if you're listening, the app is bad, and it's been bad for so long. I've been a diehard NBA fan, a League Pass subscriber for a decade. It's never been good. It's never been good. And Blazer Vision is subject to that a little bit, although it has some other integration factors outside of the app that are useful. Beyond TV stuff, I know the sort of the big things that are coming are actual structural changes to the inside of the arena. Can you give us an update on what that's going to look like, timeline, what's changing, and what's coming on that end?
Yeah, I mean, we finished our agreement with the city on what we call kind of a bridge extension, lease extension last summer. So that gives us 5 more years of guaranteed Blazers being in Portland with an option for 5 more. The plan on that was really let's just get this deal done and start working towards what the long-term deal looks like. So, we've done that to some extent with the city. We've talked to other stakeholders. I think that's been great. But the big part of that was getting, this is a little inside baseball, but getting some of what is known as the Spectator Facility Fund, and those are dollars generated by Blazer tickets, getting that money to be put back into our building for the first time. A lot of that money had been going to other places, to other venues, and I think that has been fine. But now that opportunity comes back to help generate some upgrades in the building, and that includes, of course, the big scoreboard that we're going to do this summer. So we're upgrading the scoreboard, the main center hung. We're going to upgrade the end zone boards, which is, those are like the great and historic hustle boards and Stat Central and things like that. And we'll definitely have those boards live on in some way, shape, or form. I'm not sure what the goal or what the answer is yet. Our marketing team.
If you wanted to put them in the background of a local podcast, if you wanted to add the hustle board in the background to a local podcast, no one would object here on this particular.
All right,
program.
well, I'll definitely mention that to the group. That could be a good idea. And then what we'll do is with those digital displays, we'll be able to be a bit more dynamic. Something that we've always had, something that Paul Allen had always entrusted upon us was, the fans in the arena should never have less information than the fans at home watching the game. If you watch our games, we're very stat filled, very stat centric. We're going to bring that same flavor and vibe to the arena. So we'll have all those things in the building as well. But with the digital displays, you'll have the ability to kind of, when we're doing our intros or opens, which we love to do, we'll be able to use the entire board to be able to do that. So I think it's really going to change the way that the game looks and feels to our fans, and every fan in the building will get to experience that, right? It's not just a club that lives on some level that's only available to some fans. This is a big upgrade that we're doing that every fan in the building gets to enjoy, which is exciting.
So this will be the big board, obviously. I believe this is a brand name, the large screen, not the Jumbotron, because that's the Kleenex of screens. But so the big board in the center and also the end zones will be getting a large screen update. Is that right, or is there other things that I'm missing?
Yeah, no, that's primarily the big upgrade this year, because we'll shut down for about 4 to 6 weeks this summer to get that board up and hung and ready to go for the season.
So are you going to miss out on a bunch of summer concerts? Is this a somewhat of a sacrifice for the good people at Blazers Inc.?
It's I guess a little bit. I mean, if you'll remember 2 summers ago, we did some new seating down below, and we had to shut the arena down for 3 months. So this is a much less extensive project than that. But we've kind of found 4 to 6 weeks where it's a little bit of a slow period because a lot of concerts go outside, so that we should be able to get it done, which will be good.
Got it. And this is step 1 of many planned renovations to the arena. What's the timeline for the rest of that stuff moving forward? Because is the goal, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is to have all of these steps done by 2030. Is that right?
Yeah. I'd say this is more like step 0.5. I mean, we'd really love to get everything done in 2 or 3 big summers, probably 2 big summers where we would shut the arena down and do some major concourse changes and the other big construction work. This really is this one is why I call it 0.5 is because I think the scoreboard really needed an update, and we wanted to get it done before the the WNBA team starts in 2026, because we don't want to be shut down their first summer. We want them to be able to play in the Moda Center, right? So, but yes, everything is tracking towards trying to have the arena in a great renovated place by 2030. I think I've said this before, but we're the oldest building in the NBA that hasn't seen a major renovation, and part of getting that done is getting our long-term agreement done with the city, and if we get that done, we can start on that work pretty quickly.
First, let's talk about WayFair. Your home, your space should reflect your style. And with WayFair, it's easier than ever to make that happen. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh or tackling a big home project, WayFair has everything you need in one place. They got a huge selection that makes it easy to find what you're looking for. The perfect piece at the perfect price, no matter your space, no matter your budget. So from cozy furniture to stylish decor to kitchen essentials and outdoor must-haves, WayFair has it all, and at prices that fit your budget. What you want to spend and what you need, all available at WayFair. So if you're looking for a new rug to tie that room together, or you need to upgrade that patio so sitting outside when the warm summer sun finally arrives is comfortable, WayFair's got it. Head over to wayfair.com, find something that's just your style today. That's WayFair, WayFair.com. WayFair, every style, every home. Today's show is also brought to you from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were to get any money back, then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who could do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates, only in the iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, let's get back to the rest of my conversation with Blazers President of Business Operations, Dewayne Hankins. About the ground lease, in my real life, I work in real estate, Dewayne, so I'm uniquely positioned to understand this. Typically, ground leases are long; they're 100 years. In many cases, why the short-term agreement? Like, is this just because we don't know what market rent looks like on the land? Is that basically what we're haggling over here, or why was this only 5 years? Because I do think that gives some fans they feel a little nervous about that. Although I think it's a little overblown. But in any case, talk about it. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. So if you'll remember, I think in 1995 when the building was built, the Paul Allen built the arena with private dollars, and the lease was with the ground and the building sat on the ground and the city owned. And then in this lease, the one change that we made that I think maybe flies under the radar is it's no longer a ground lease. So we gave the building over to the city. So the city now owns the building. They own the land that it's on and the building now. And that allows us to take some of these dollars that like I said, in that spectator facility fund and put those things into the building, because you wouldn't want to put what are perceived as public dollars into a private building. So that helps on that front. And then the 5 years is short. And, I would say, again, we have that 5-year option at the same terms to keep the team here. And again, I think, is it overblown? Fans are always going to, 5 years doesn't seem like a long time and it goes quick. I would say Portland is a tremendous market, and Blazers fans have showed up for 50 plus years, and there's certainly no interest of ownership or anyone else to move this team. Like, you see it now. Like, I think we've had great crowds for the last 3 years when the product probably hasn't been as great as it can be. And now that the team is really turning around, like we had a standing room only crowd on Sunday night against the Pistons. So
yeah, it was packed. There was a bunch of juice in the building for that one.
Yeah, fans love this team. So you're not looking at a market that the NBA is certainly not one looking around trying to find a place to leave. And then you've heard the expansion rumblings as well. They're certainly not interested in having a market leave for what they view as a potential expansion market. So
yeah, well, I mean, Dewayne, people are worried that the team that plays in the 4th largest television market in America is going to relocate to something like the 27th largest television market in America. The Mavs moving to Vegas. Like, fans are going to fan. I think it's important.
Yeah,
and I think it's important for, just to kind of lay out the logic. Obviously, people are going to be skeptical in a way that they are naturally skeptical, because that's how fandom works. As you said, I love it as well. It's why I get to do this every day. So is there a time with sorry, jumping around a little bit, but is there a time when the WNBA team would have to play somewhere else because of these arena updates? Is that a thing that will happen?
Yeah. I mean, definitely at some point we're going to have to, do renovation work that's at a bigger scale inside the building. So we talked to the WNBA team about that. That's contemplated in their lease. There could be 2, potentially 3 summers again where they would move over to like the Coliseum, for instance, and play their games in the summer there while we got a bunch of work done in the building. And, all again with the goal of making sure that it's a great building for both teams going forward. I think people hear that sometimes and they think, oh, you're just going to move the team over. And, the reality is the WNBA is becoming such a huge business that there's no conceivable way that the league would have been excited about having the team play full time in the Coliseum. So it's exciting to have it in Moda. It's exciting to have it that way full time.
Yeah, the WNBA would make you spend also tens of millions of dollars to update the Memorial Coliseum. Like you'd have it on at some point. You would be renovating some building significantly. So the big one and the newer one maybe makes a little more sense. In general, what else can fans look forward to over this final stretch run of the season, as we wind down here in the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to the broadcast, what's been exciting, I want to make sure to give kudos to both our fans who have been really patient with us through the transition. I think, it wasn't easy. It certainly wasn't easy before we had the KUNP and fans had to figure out how to work on the 2.2 station and all of that and Blazer Vision. But I think we've worked through it with fans and they've been able to make that transition. So we appreciate it. Like, it's never easy to go from the way you've always watched games to completely new ways to watch games, but fans are showing up. So I want to just say I appreciate that. And then the other part of it, I think, is our team. One thing we've always taken a ton of pride in is having this, we've always want our local broadcast to feel like a national broadcast. And we have such talented folks that are on it with Kevin, Lamar, and Brooke and everyone involved behind the scenes But it really has felt that way. That team's obviously won a lot of Emmys to sort of prove their work. But if you go to like the idea that now everyone gets to actually see that broadcast, I think that part's been really exciting for our fans. And, what we try to do, I think, is obviously teach you the rules of not the rules, but teach you how the game, is played, how it works, but then also show you some of the stats and numbers behind the scenes. And that team just does such a great job of that.
Yeah, can I say this? I've been critical of the Blazers broadcast for sometimes showing things that are just too positive. I call it state-run media. I watch a ton of NBA. There's a lot of homers out there. I would say the Blazers are on the low end of the scale of wild homerism. They are certainly on the low end of the scale. Last night, watching the game, the Blazers highlighted a defensive miscommunication. You don't get that a lot of times on other broadcasts. I think that stuff is fun, where you can learn the game. Here's what went wrong. That is, I think, really useful for fans, and I have enjoyed seeing that become more part of the television presentation when I'm watching 41 road games a year and the occasional home game when I am parenting and doing other things in life as well. I do think the broadcast is it is, I would say, like large, if I had to describe it, versus some other local broadcasts. It feels like it has a lot of with Tom Haberstroh and with the way the halftime and pregame show works. It feels a little bigger than some other local broadcasts.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, I think Tom's added an element. Like, we had this concept a few years back to do this analytics insider, and you go back to like baseball. I think the Oakland A's might have been, you can correct me if I'm wrong, might have been the first team to put OBP in a broadcast. And, obviously now baseball understands the value of a statistic like that. Basketball has many of those statistics. I don't know if they'll ever hit mainstream. Like, obviously it's, basketball can be very focused on, points, rebounds, assists, things like that. But we always want to be able to share that with our fans. And we think, because Blazers fans, this will sound, but I think our fans are smarter than most basketball fans. Like, I just think you can't get one by Blazer fans. So when you say that, we have to point out the hits and the misses, I think we have to, because I think it's important for fans to know, they're just, Blazer fans are smart. So how can we help augment that education? Because they're already, you already can't get one past them. They're great fans.
Yeah, they're going to be mad if you don't mention that Scoot Henderson leads the league in rim assists since January 17th, or whatever classic Haberstat would be. Anything else you guys got coming up with the remainder of the season that fans should be on the lookout for? First, I want to take a minute to tell you about underwear, my underwear, and what could be your underwear as well. SKIMS makes underwear for everyone. They're high quality, they're super comfortable, and now they're making designs for every person that wears undergarments. That could be you. You could find out if the hype is real, and let me tell you, the hype is real. Listen, the things that you want in your underwear, they want them to fit. You want them to be comfortable, and you don't want to think about them once you put them on during the day. And SKIMS checks all the boxes. You put them on in the morning, they're comfortable. You go about your day, you don't notice them. So whether you're working out, running errands, or just at work, you'll be wearing comfortable undergarments that you won't have to consider. And not considering your underwear is the best way to live your day. And you might know SKIMS, classically making feminine underwear. Well, like I said, they're making underwear for everybody. So go check them out. Shop SKIMS Mens at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and SKIMS stores. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the menu that follows. Still a pass first point guard, still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. Let's finish up our chat with Blazers President of Business Operations, Dewayne Hankins. Anything else you guys got coming up with the remainder of the season that fans should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, like, this week it's apparent or on our calendars, like, we have our women's summit at the Ritz-Carlton, and that's been it's going to be a phenomenal event, and it's sold out very quickly. It's with Umpqua Bank, great speaker lineup, fantastic group that's going to be there. And I think, like, one of the things we try to do, we talk about this all the time at the Rose Quarter with the Blazers, is like, with this concept of welcoming everyone to our games, to our events, to our concerts. And the Women's Summit, I think, is an important way to show especially women, that while this can be a man-dominated industry, like there's plenty of roles and opportunities for women to work in sports, and really excited to have, that event later on this week.
I'll get you out of here in a second, because I know the clock's ticking, but I want to ask sort of big picture a question about how it works in your world. I've been curious about this for many months, and I think we saw a little bit of this during the summer of the Damian Lillard leaving town thing, but I think specifically we saw this in Dallas at the trade deadline. On the basketball side, the team made a seismic change, right? They send out a franchise icon, and things shift quickly. How do you, on your side, with your team, who are not making necessarily basketball decisions, how do you stay nimble when seismic things change on the basketball part of the world with your partners, with your advertising? Like, how do you guys react to those type of huge structural changes?
Well, I think I'll say our partnership, and mine especially with Joe, our GM, Joe Cronin, is phenomenal. We do things in lockstep. We communicate well, we communicate often. I don't take that for granted, because I don't think every team has the symbiotic relationship that Joe and I have. So I think that, like, out of the gate, that helps a ton. And if you look at like the Damian trade, if you'd asked the business side when it would have been good to trade him, it would have been as soon as possible, because then you get it over with and you were like moving on to the next chapter, right? And for basketball, the best thing was to keep him as long as possible. So we had all summer in ways to kind of try to work our path and sort of change our trajectory and all those things. But we always make the decision that's best for basketball. I'll go to the G League. Like, if you'd asked me, it would have been great to start G League 18 months later, not 6 months later. But the goal was to get basketball players developed. And so we got it up and running. So we're always going to make decisions that put basketball first, and then we respond to them. And our goal as a team on the business side, I think with all teams, is like, you have to be nimble, because you could be sitting on hundreds of Luka jerseys or Damian jerseys or whatever, and then you have to figure out how to get rid of them or move on or do whatever. And so I think that's the fun in sports, is like we get to be fans a little bit as we also get to run our business, and that makes it exciting.
Obviously, you would probably learn before me that these big things happen, but are you abreast of some, like every deal or whatever, but because of the need to stay nimble, or like, just quite frankly, like the need to reach out to First Tech Credit Union or whatever and be like, hey, the dude who's the face of your campaign might not be around next week. Like, when you say you're in lockstep with Joe, are you getting somewhat briefed before these things become public? Yeah, definitely. I'll give you an example of, the year that we traded CJ to New Orleans. We had initially expected our renewal for season tickets to go out before the trade deadline, and Joe and I had a conversation about things that were happening. And after that, I said, it'd be better for our fans to make their decision about renewing for next year after the trade deadline, so that they know what team that they're signing up for. And so that was one of those where it was like I had enough inside information to make the decision to move our renewal deadline, and I think our fans were better for it. So he wasn't like, we're going to get Josh Hart, and he's just like one of the best. He's one of the best rebounders under 6'5" the game has ever seen. But you were aware, like, hey, some stuff could be coming, and you need to be And are you able to be nimble in that way? Like, are you able to? Is that enough time to give you to make the decisions you guys need to make? Like, or obviously you said you would have July 2nd would have been a great day to trade Dame that gives you that runway. But is 10 days, is a week, is 3 days enough for you guys to do what you need to do?
Yeah, depending on how big the project is and how baked the cake is, like we can always transition. And I think one of the things that, again, we do, I think, really well, it comes from the top, is like listening to our fans, understanding our fans' rationale, like trying to be where they are, because you never want to make a decision, if you can help it, that either blindsides the fans or feels tone deaf or whatever. And again, like what I love about Blazer fans, and I have worked in a lot of different markets, and in Portland, people love the Blazers, and so you get a lot of different opinions. You don't love them all. You don't love all the opinions, but you'd rather get them. Like, you always would rather get the opinions than get people that are sort of ambivalent about the state of the franchise. So we love that.
Are you seeking out fan opinions? Are you on r/Rip City and finding out the word? Like, are you like when this goes up and they say like, you'll see Dewayne Hankins on Locked On Blazers? Like, will you pursue that information, or will that come across your desk in some other way?
No, I definitely won't watch interviews of myself if I can help it, but I do.
Me neither. I hate it.
But I do love watching, whether it's, feedback that you get on Reddit, or just walking around the concourse at games and fans will come up to us or to me and give feedback. Like it's so valuable. So
okay, I want to ask you this final one. So from my seat at press row, I can barely see where you sit for games, but I have noticed that you guys are pretty stoic, right? This isn't the Ballmer level intensity out there. Are there moments when you're watching games and big stuff happens that you have to kind of suppress your inner fan because in some ways you're sitting with your bosses? Like how does like Dewayne in an exciting moment at the Moda Center? How do you corral yourself to be both a big fan of the thing you're watching and a person at work?
It's a good question. I think you get a lot of I get a lot of text messages, which tells me that a lot of people see me. So you just always know there's a lot of eyes on you, whether it's on broadcast or at the game, or it's very noticeable when I'm not in my seat. So I think there are times like Shaden had that dunk earlier in the year where he just came out of nowhere and dunked it, and I jumped out of my seat like a kid, So I got a hard time for that, which was funny. But it's not super suppressible. I'll say that. Like I definitely sit there or jump up at times or get excited or yell at refs or yell at fouls or traveling or 3-second whatever it is, So I don't think we behave as well as we look like we behave. Maybe we're fans.
Like you said, it's between me and the stanchion. I don't have a good view. Like I have where the media sits. I can see like who's there tonight. Oh, that looks like it's Dewayne. I don't have like I can't keep eyes on you, but I like to see in big moments how the big decision makers react. Dewayne, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Super insightful on what's happening. And we'll, as the season winds down, maybe we can catch up in the summertime and see what's next for the Trailblazers.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks for having me on, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thanks again to Dewayne for joining the program. I hope you learned a little bit about where and how the Blazers make decisions on the business side. I thought it was particularly insightful in how stuff gets done and the things that are coming to an arena and a television or however you watch the games near you. We'll keep doing this 5 days a week wherever you get podcasts. The Blazers are back for a little bit, finally at long last. 7-game homestand coming your way, and that kicks off with this evening's games. You're listening to March 12th's program, this evening game against the New York Knicks. Tomorrow's show, we'll recap that game and look ahead to what is next, everything we learned and everything you need to know moving forward. 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the program and then come back for more. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.